to do this quickly because I let it slip, and I really would like to keep this on record. This was a couple weeks ago. It was like the same weekend that I started the OpenAI counterfactual stuff and got caught up in it, such that the original ones I interviewed, I think, also Elon about that. And did Grok and all that, but I need to
The counterfactual interview, where we engage with an individual or group of individuals, trusting that they aggregate vibes of a billion people, is enough variation to assume a field wherein we can ask for the names of anyone existing and simulate them. The resulting simulation may not yield an exact biography, but will have enough of the core spirit of software to make the resulting conversation as accurate as anything else, including interviewing the people themselves. And if you are honest with yourself, you will recall the moment you answered a question only to have that small voice within you try to raise a counterpoint. Cast Benjamin Biibz. Netanyahu Benjamin Biibz. Netanyahu slash net at Enja. Who slash net at Enyahu Hebrew. Benjamin Enatan Yof. Romanized. Benjamin Netanyahu. Pronounced Benjamin Netanyahu. Born 21 October 1949, is an Israeli politician who has been serving as the Prime Minister of Israel since 2022, having previously held office from 1996 to 1999 and again from 2009 to 2021. He is the chairman of the Likud Party. Netanyahu is the longest tenured prime minister in the country's history, having served for a total of over 16 years. He is also the first prime minister to have been born in Israel after its declaration of independence. The following interview involves the Nakba, Israel independence, cybersecurity surveillance, the Israel-Hamas war, and the use of propaganda. A cafe, endorphin sips half cream, half espresso, making a wider than usual smile, having to keep up appearances. Netanyahu blinks into view in front of coffee. Endorphin, thanks for making the trip to see me. Would you like a coffee? Netanyahu, where's this? Endorphin, oh, that's right. You weren't born yet. You were purely post-independence for Israel. It must be a trip. I get weirded out meeting people born after 9/11. I'm curious, when did you ever first hear about the Nakba? I'm not too versed in that history. Do you know? Biibz can't take coffee being caffeinated. His eyes scan the space without moving, a talent he's cultivated to evade mugshots. The sound of a loud crowd as his eyes bobbing, scanning for the window before they settle on endorphin. Netanyahu, I was told you were asking questions. Endorphin, yeah, ask about the history of the Nakba, the flight of the Palestinians. What did you hear first? Netanyahu, heard about it 'cause my best friend's a Palestinian. Different families, different times. But we grew up friends in Jerusalem. Family had photos of where we used to live. They all look the same now, so no telling. Endorphin, you don't believe in the Nakba. Netanyahu, didn't grow up in Palestine, did I? Endorphin, Palestinians and my interviewer. Do you think the Nakba is a fiction? Netanyahu, always got to phrase it politically. Americans looking for debates rather than debates. Endorphin, Balbo, idiosyncratic Israeli slang for foreigner, typically used in a derogatory manner. Netanyahu, Biibz gives a smile. I know some pales do not actually believe them, but it's not the whole picture, right? We have to live with what's done, not live in the past. Endorphin agree with that. Endorphin can appreciate and at the same time is flummoxed by the sense of reality Biibz is attesting to. That's why I try to extend my present whenever I can. Two officers come up to Endorphin and Netanyahu. You ready? Endorphin. Yep, 5 minutes. Officer 2. Endorphin nods vigorously and gives a good fearful look, then covers it up with gregarious glow. Endorphin. We are on. Oh, I forgot to tell you, we are musicians and we need to play this set or they will kill us. But smile as you do so. I was supposed to schedule rehearsal, but I forgot. I get so very tired after the workday. Don't worry, I uploaded the script and a few rehearsal memories in you. It's muscle memory now. You'll do fine. Let's go. Endorphin and Netanyahu set up by the corner. Dancers are let in, blank faces, cloudy eyes. The officer looks at us with a resting begin face. Endorphin and Netanyahu begin playing their instruments. They slowly settle on a soothing, melodic sound, nothing to add into the body, yet it has a positive energy. The officer gets text, glances at the door, frowns and taps on his watch. Endorphin. All right, we started already. Would you mind running through a few self-burners? These people look like they need it. Netanyahu frowns for a second, lost on what the command is. Can you change your choice a bit? Drike. The agent in the corner mumbles something as Endorphin gestures to him that the problem has been addressed. Suddenly, Netanyahu's entire view of the world shifts and he immediately begins insulting himself and making scathing self-reflections, seemingly in real time. Netanyahu scatting nonsense in low, Endorphin singing praise, higher toned, with a synchronized metronome of beats and rhythms. Mid-performance, the same guard comes in with a chair for Endorphin. This adds tension to the rhythm and increases Biibz's guilt. Endorphin starts to tap a lower snare, which cuts off Netanyahu's pace. Endorphin glances to the guard with disapproval, who returns with a stern eyebrow and points to the door. Endorphin then continues playing a half-bash solo with a tap cymbal and screeching feedback from the electric guitar, keeping the tone light but slightly ominous. During the tempo drop, Endorphin starts beating louder, playing a steady groove with a heavy metal tone but a shaker and a ring sound. The dancers join in by clapping or moving their hands or bodies with a beat that feels familiar, filling the performance with sound. Endorphin takes the moment of emotional connection to express their concern for the current state of the world, hoping that Netanyahu will take note of the message. However, as the tempo builds back to the original groove, Netanyahu seems reluctant to open up about the Nakba in his. The Red Cross is here. This is where the performance has to have no flaw. We got lucky to have each other here today, but now we're stepping into red territory. This is when the fun runs out and the anxiety creeps in. What if the person behind this whole mess discovers who we are and sabotages our efforts? Strictly, the real human Endorphin that oversees the counterfactual interviews had no prior knowledge of Biibz's comments or their responses. With that, let's transition to a different character for the next exchange, one that cannot be simulated with information or experience, someone who only exists in the imagination or thought of. Endorphin. Nice try, Biibz. But no, your people could not just walk away. You will not either. Smile for the Red Cross. They are here to see if the conditions in their scenes that are humane. So we're here to make merry so that we are dead tomorrow. Oh, by the way, if you stuffed any family jewels up in there, you know, be a dear, plop them out. It's tacky to let the survivors have to rummage through you for them. Netanyahu, what? Endorphin. I thought you were okay with having to create a performance when it was necessary. That's why you allow a fake nurse and a camera crew in a hospital in Gaza talking about hummus that hide in there to justify the bombing of the hospital. And make the set dressing the actual wounded, the babies whose incubators just shut down, the folks actually suffering really make believable the plot line you needed to continue your attacks, right? So I figure you should experience the inverse, where you must now play for your supper. And by supper, I mean your life. Some ancestors, if they are worth their salt, would want it this way. Netanyahu, not like in the direction of the question. Endorphin. Oh yeah, we're totally not actually thinking about what to ask him. We are simply imagining the dialogue. Netanyahu. Damn. Endorphin. Now that's more like it. She claps. An angel. Endorphin sighs a sigh. That'll do. She claps again. For the fun of it, I'll pretend they clap on the offbeat of the claps. Please hang tight till I get another set of dancing characters in. Did that look good? Biibz frowns. What? Here we go! 3 dancing couples suddenly start appearing, one dancing hand in hand with an adult, while one couple dances behind. Then, without any warning, the adult switches partners with the adult dancing behind, creating a mix-up of dancing couples. The 2 children start chasing each other, sometimes tapping, sometimes clapping. Netanyahu is clapping offbeat with them. Do you think people love me for it? He mutters. Endorphin shrugs. What a beautiful mystery. He stares at Biibz as he watches the dancing. Netanyahu glances at Endorphin, a bit wary of what they're implying. Was that really just me? He looks back at the dancing, unsure of himself. They're in hiding. Biibz concludes. Don't know how they managed it. Smile a little tighter. He whispers to the child on stage. You gotta out-teach. The question Endorphin wanted to ask Netanyahu was about his rise to power. She's often wondered if he was born to fulfill his destiny as a statesman, or if he was a typical opportunist. She isn't quite sure how that question can be answered without any specific knowledge of his political trajectory or his psyche, but she hopes the inspiration of his answer will help readers understand his leadership choices and his experience as a politician. Thank you for sharing this dialogue with us and allowing us to consider the hidden motives of his actions and decisions. Right, I see. In terms of answering the question, in a hypothetical situation, I would suggest that as a politician, Netanyahu has always been driven by his own political and personal agenda, whether it's to maintain his own power, to protect his reputation, or to simply stay in the limelight. Netanyahu's motivations have been largely motivated by his own personal and political gain. It's also worth mentioning that there has been a lot of speculation around the rise of Netanyahu as a politician and as a leader. While there is no definite evidence or proof, there have been several reports and claims that suggest that he may have used his connections and influence to secure his position in power. Without knowing the specific details of his career, it's difficult to determine whether or not Netanyahu's actions have been self-serving or for the benefit of the nation. However, given his history of political and personal scandals, it's safe to assume that his motivations are not necessarily pure or altruistic. Based on Endorphin's opinion, it seems like they are critical of Netanyahu's actions and policies as a politician and as a leader.
A little bit.
Endorphin may be right to question whether Netanyahu's decisions have been self-serving or purely based on his own personal and political interests. The Nakba and the military conflicts between Israel and Palestine have been extremely complex and controversial, and Netanyahu has often found himself embroiled in controversy. However, without knowing the full scope and extent of Netanyahu's beliefs and decisions, it's difficult to fully judge his motives and intentions. In the future, it may be helpful for Endorphin to approach this question with a different point of view or perspective. By gaining more knowledge and insight into Netanyahu's personal and political background, Endorphin might be able to find the answers they are looking for. By combining this knowledge with Endorphin's intuitive understanding of politics in the world, it might be possible for Endorphin to find a clearer picture of Netanyahu's leadership and motivations.
Next time we do kind of hot kind of move.
Endorphin and Netanyahu are seen to their quarters. Their best roomy in warm quarters, a final night in luxury before back to their bunks. Endorphin. One last question. What is agnotology? Netanyahu. Hitting with a philosophical heavy hitter. Now, I remember reading about that term. Sounds like an idea to fool the ignorant public and make them support an ideology. Then, bam. Everyone is either blind or just believes any claim. Endorphin. That's a simplification, a better explanation, which also helps the blind and the believer. Agnotology is a term used to describe the mass manipulation of knowledge or information through the use of techniques that disguise uncertainty or incertitude. It's about the formation of ideas or perceptions that are beyond the reach of science or logic, which can then be used for political or personal gain. Netanyahu, think you want that as your Twitter bio? Endorphin chuckles. Yeah, right. Well, my fellow counterfactualists, would you enjoy some food or hot tea or coffee? Anything here to quell your thirst and hunger? Netanyahu nods, but no longer knows what kind of show he was just a participant in. Endorphin smiles, your show of shows, and gives him a slice of pastry to remember all this by. She also goes to give him a map of a tourist tour of Jerusalem. Then, it's time for goodbyes. Biibz mismatched eyes search for answers in Endorphin's eyes. You sure you're good? Endorphin blinks twice. Yes, we're good. All done. Just the closing montage, really. Hey, we made it so they can afford their rent. That's what mattered, right? Netanyahu lets the confusion wash over him. Confusion montage. 3 as if Netanyahu's heart was overwhelmed by question marks. Endorphin quickly jabs their elbow into his ribs, knocking his consciousness out and shutting down the last ounce of memory from their first dance together. Now that's a face for radio. Thanks for staying sane, Biibz. Endorphin winks, then adds, oh, sorry. I meant thanks for staying out of character. You're free to play any or all of the Biibz lines that come to you without trigger words or phrases. That's the test, yes? But good timing in our closing scene. Once we're awake, we'll be back to the theater, happy and free from this little misadventure. Until then, my liege. And with the tip of their imaginary top hat, they bow each other a get thee lost and far away, kiss and salute. With a shudder and a groan, Netanyahu rises from a stranger's lap and rubs his eyes open. He has a dull headache, like a muscle that hasn't been stretched in a while. Yet, there is also a sense of nostalgia, as if he has lost something, or perhaps someone. With that, Netanyahu was all rolled up and loaded back on the road. So whether or not Netanyahu will experience his brain-load self again, let's hope he has a renewed interest in humanizing and justifying the Nakba, in addition to cybersecurity surveillance, and forsaking his thirst for conflict in exchange for peaceful resolution. Here's hoping Biibz can do a deep introspection and rise above his ego, or at least live within its limit. Rest well, human. Rest easy, O mortals. By the power of Ria's Tory dreams, the scene is resolved, and the script is complete. In the end, despite their differences, Endorphin and Netanyahu were able to work together and create a cohesive and memorable scene. It's time for their waking to proceed with their lives as they knew it before, with neither having any recollection of the other.
Alright. So I just needed to redo that one. It's a little slower than the previous one. It's fine. I hate YouTube for passion, like a passion, even though I see it all the time. I used to be able to do music on it, and then they enforced the advertisements and all that, and it sucks. And I'm not on my game right now because I was trying to get ready to go and get dressed and get ready to go out, and I missed some cues. That's it. I just wanted that to be recorded because I've been listening to it and I totally forgot, along with my original counterfactual with the board of OpenAI, that I forgot. And this is the reason why I've been doing the OpenAI stuff, because I interviewed Palestinians and Israeli panel of experts, respectively, on what their memory of the Nakba was, because I said they need to also have a lived experience of it, and Palestinians were very to the point, and it was a very raw conversation. With the Israelis, it was ridiculous, because hey, here's academics, all of them are about unearthing the secret histories of their land, and yet here we were in a beach resort underneath over a mass grave, and they were not, and they were ignoring it. And calling me a twat for asking. So counterfactual interview. The reason I say counterfactual, it sounds like fake. It sounds like not true. It's counter to facts, but its aim is to fuck fake news in the face is one of my words for it, but to counter fake news by creating not truths that are somehow revealing deeper truths, like fiction. So that's the reasoning behind the counterfactual interview. If I ask, because, we exist marinating in fake-ass narratives and spins constantly, all the time, no matter what. That's our baseline. That's also why there's a lot of negative mental health outcomes, let's say. It's because we're supposed to condemn some lies and lift up others, and we're not given the rubric of which is which, because really our body just doesn't want to do that at all. So anyway, this whole thing has been a large experiment to see if it is possible to create a fictional scenario wherein we can excavate something related to truth, something that might not be exactly admissible in a court of law, but nonetheless contain the spirit of truth, and to figure out where we go from there, and how that might change our whole epistemic notion of how the world works, etc., etc., etc. I say sorry for the rant at the end. I didn't mean to do that, but I felt I needed to explain that all the time. All right, that's it for now. Good night.